Yeah.
Welcome back.
Eric Carey's back for week 2.
I'm trying to be the radio DJ.
What's going on, everybody? Planet.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to week 2 of the FFMercs Live. Last week we were on Patreon because we forgot to activate our YouTube until we were inside the 24-hour window, and it takes 24 hours to activate YouTube Live. So now we're on YouTube. Now we're excited to start week 2. Let's overreact.
I love overreacting. Overreacting is the best. If you're wondering what the heck I'm doing, I'm trying to tweet out some links, so I'm just kind of looking awkwardly in the corner while everyone else speaks. So you guys can take it away while I awkwardly do this.
Let me see that shirt, Stomp. I think that's how we need to start.
You want to see this?
Oh man, we might have the exact same
Yes,
shirt.
we do. Yes, we do.
Hell yeah.
I'll rub my nipples for everybody.
Perfect. All right, now we're ready.
I feel good. I'm ready. I'm waiting for Matt to tweet out this link.
I'm doing it now on my phone, and it's going. I'm trying to give information as what we're covering, you know?
Oh, I think Shane might want to join right now.
Oh, really? Hey, just be patient. You know, I'm just going to tweet out as is, and then we can add to it.
You be. All right. Well, we don't have any viewers right now anyway, so it doesn't matter.
But when people look at the replay, this is going to be like the shit show. So welcome to the shit show, everybody. I just put out this really boring link with nothing on it but the link to the show and tagged us. But that's totally workable.
So wait, speaking of the shit show, you guys are cool with language?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's live, man. Who cares?
Shit
yeah, I mean,
show.
there's nothing you can do. I could just.
All right. Are children watching this? I'm sorry if children are watching this.
Yeah. What are you doing? Aren't you supposed to be watching cartoons and making Rice Krispie treats or whatever your kids do?
Why aren't you in church?
Have you guys watched The League where they had the Prodigy or whatever, and he's like an 8-year-old kid?
Yeah. Oh God, that's so creepy. That episode is super creepy. You keep trying to get close to him. It's weird.
All right, how do we start this?
All right, why don't we talk about some of the players that are I guess, in the news here. So why not Antonio Brown? I mean, if we're talking about a shit show, we're not going to get into the personal stuff because we don't know any details and they're not fun to talk about. But all we know for sure is he traveled to Miami and he's going to play in this game. Joining us is Shane. What's up, buddy? We're about to talk about Antonio Brown. Are you excited?
Oh, I love talking about Antonio Brown. We don't really give that guy enough pub, I think.
All right. Well, you know what? We don't even got to spend time. Screw you, Antonio Brown. We're just going to do this real quick. If you're in season long, you kind of have to start him. Were you drafting him? I mean, are you let's say you had any of the high upside waiver wire wide receivers. Are you starting any of them over Antonio Brown?
I mean, I like DJ Chark this week. John Ross is iffy.
Just because of matchup for Ross?
It's more that as I say, I like DJ Chark, and then I'm going to say, oh no, it's because I want to see John Ross prove it 2 weeks in a row. I think it's matchup. And I think Boyd gets a lot more targets this week.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, Richard Sherman probably is on Ross, I would assume.
Well, Richard Sherman's not really something to be afraid of anymore. I mean, he's still good.
First interception in 2 years or something last week, right?
Yeah.
He's not. It's not the old days where you were like, all right, well, that side of the field just doesn't exist.
Right.
Yeah.
I like Chark too, but I got to be honest with you. I think with all of those guys, I'm more in a wait and see. I'm starting Chark over, other high waiver ads from last week, but I'm not going to start him over Brown. I'll start Antonio out there. The chatter is, for whatever that's worth, because New England's great with that double talk that means nothing, is that they want to get him involved early. So we'll see.
There's so many. Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to. It's take your medicine. In DFS, you can do something about it. You can't do anything about it in season long. There's no way. I mean, you're very unlikely to have another option there. Let's just say you went running back heavy, and you ended up with Austin Eckler as your fourth. running back, and you have a couple of, whatever you have, Tyler Lockett and Tyler Boyd, something like that, you would sit Antonio Brown for like Austin Eckler, I'd assume.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's probably the only thing. If you happen to get Brown late and you have some usable other wide receivers in a flex position, then that's the only kind of situation I would think. But anyway, we're going to move on from Antonio Brown because he's a headache and he's not fun to talk about. Another headache, Joe Mixon. Looks like he's going to play, tested his ankle before the game today, and he is going to give it a go. I would assume he's going to be limited regardless. Although the wisdom would be, why would they play him if he's going to be limited? I guess there's some value to him being a decoy, but why would you want to risk him being injured? So I think him playing kind of submarines both his and Gio Bernard's value, and I would avoid starting both of them this week if possible. What do you guys think of Joe Mixon?
I agree. I'm just avoiding that. I would think Gio gets more touches this week. I honestly don't know why they are playing him. I just think why re-aggravate that ankle when you have a more than capable backup that can start and do well in there?
I mean, we see it every year, every week, really, where a guy's iffy and you don't know what to do with him, and you kind of question, well, why are you playing him? This doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, it's early in the season for one. It's not like you're grinding for the playoffs. It's a game that you could win with Gio Bernard in there because, Gio Bernard's excellent. I'm actually starting Damian Williams over Joe Mixon in one of my dynasty leagues.
Yes.
Obviously, Chris Carson too. It's a situation, if you can avoid it, avoid it. But, if your one choice is Joe Mixon and the next choice is, I don't know, let's say Justice Hill. All right, well, then I understand that, and you kind of have to start him. Just looking at another roster where I can start 0 to 9 running backs. I have Gio Bernard and Joe Mixon, and both of them are riding the bench, and I'm playing Trey Quinn right now over Joe Mixon, which I might go in and change that. I don't know about that.
Who are you playing? Who'd you say you were playing over him?
Basically, Trey Quinn. He's the last guy I'm starting. It's just, Mixon could go out there and be fine, or Mixon could go out there and get 1 carry for 2 yards and then ride the bench the rest of the day.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I'd rather just sit him entirely. So, I'm passing on him completely. John, you have any other thoughts on Joe Mixon?
Nah, that pretty much covers it. Yeah, I'm benching him just because, I mean, even if he is available, the risk of re-injury, the risk of lost explosion because of the ankle, there's not much upside to Joe Mixon, even if he does play.
All right, and not to keep it on a boring track, but same story, different team. Mike Williams is going to play, and they're really worried about it. They were vocally worried about it against the Detroit Lions. It would be a nice situation if we were sure, because Darius Slay is probably going to be shadowing Keenan Allen, and Hunter Henry is out. But at the level he is, I got to say, if we're talking about sitting Joe Mixon for all those guys, you're definitely sitting Mike Williams for all the guys we mentioned, right? I mean, even possibly a deeper pool. I mean, he's set up to have a great game if he were healthy. So that's the only thing that kind of makes you think, like, all right, if they were that worried about his knee and he's playing, are they playing him out of desperation because of Hunter Henry, or what are we thinking here?
That's exactly it. If Hunter Henry was playing, I don't.
Cliffhanger.
No, John. Oh, I want to know what John was going to say.
I know. You keep him wanting more.
I'm going to guess he's going to say if Hunter Henry was playing, then Mike Williams wouldn't be. I'm going to stay away from Mike Williams because he's a wide receiver 3. So hopefully you can find a viable player on your roster that can kind of approximate that production, or at least has that upside for that production.
Would you sit him for John Ross?
God,
because literally they're kind of, I mean, if you take the stigma of John Ross away, they're kind of similar.
God. I think the upside for John Ross is higher than Mike Williams, especially because he had so many targets last week. And John Ross isn't injured. Of course, he can get injured at any point in time because that's what he's been doing the last 2 years. But I have to stick with John Ross. Not to mention that I believe running backs get more receptions or more targets with tight ends out than say Mike Williams would. So that's the other argument here is Mike Williams actually going to see an uptick in touches or in targets? I don't think so. I think Austin Eckler sees the bulk of that.
Yeah, I think Austin Eckler is the guy. They obviously were going to him a lot last week, and if Williams is if Slay is going to try to take Keenan out of the game, Keenan's going to get a million targets anyway, so you don't want to sit him and season long. Obviously, that's not what I'm saying. But, yeah, I think Austin Eckler is going to get most of the work, and same thing. I'm just trying not to start Mike Williams anywhere. Something we talked about earlier, Le'Veon Bell he had the big MRI. I mean, when it rains, it pours. And for the Jets, it looked like everyone was getting hurt. We'll get to some of the other injuries later that affect this week's matchup and long term. But Le'Veon Bell has now popped up as questionable. I'm wondering if he's truly questionable or if they're just looking at their chances for the rest of the year. And they're looking at him being just a little banged up. And this is just a precautionary take the L and move on. His shoulder, even though he was cleared, it's looking more and more like he's not going to play. But, as of right now, they're reporting it as 50-50. If you owned him, it's not like maybe Mixon and Williams. You might not have options that you are very comfortable starting him over. So what's the level of player that you would be starting him over? Or is it because it's Monday, you can't pivot? And unless you own, do you just got to – if you don't own Ty Montgomery, you just got to have to move in another direction?
I didn't mean to make those scary eyes right there, but yeah, I think I think you kind of have to because you can't take the 0 on Monday night. You just can't.
Yeah.
And I didn't see any reports this morning, so this is breaking news to me. So now I got to get him the hell out of my rosters, unless I own Tymo, or I just don't even know who else you would own that you'd be able to slide comfortably in there. I mean, you're going back from a guy that's an RB1 to maybe an RB3 with Tymo, if you're lucky, with Trevor Siemian out there.
Yeah.
For the next 7 weeks, apparently. I'll probably wait up until 12:59, probably later, and then see what happens this afternoon. If anything else comes out, if it's trending more towards him playing, then leave him in there. But if I don't have at least Tymo to stick in there, I'm not starting Bell.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is most people. Well, it is everybody's RB1 or most people's RB1. So, but you can't, like Shane said, take that risk, and you kind of got to pivot here. If Ty Montgomery is available, I would definitely be picking him up. But I think the news that he was injured, a lot of people started picking up Ty Montgomery earlier this week, so he might not be available. Maybe Bilal Powell. Is Bilal Powell even active? I don't know.
Bilal Powell, Jesus.
Yeah, I don't even know.
God.
To be honest.
Amazing. I still can't believe they brought him back but cut Elijah McGuire. But, what are you going to
do? So going to a less boring or more boring option, Sam Darnold has mono. They reported Adam Gase said, he had a sore throat the other day, and all of a sudden he has mono. So everyone who didn't know or hadn't had mono before assumed he was out for a game. He's going to be out now reportedly anywhere between 3 and 7 weeks, could be longer. So what do you think that does? He was a fringe option in one quarterback league, streaming at best. In Superflex, obviously this affects a lot of people. Obviously, you have no interest in, and no one has interest in Trevor Siemian, but how do you think this affects the value of everyone else? I don't think that Siemian has a lot of issues with deep ball accuracy. But as far as the way as talented as Sam Darnold is right now, it may not be that big of a step down for Jamison Crowder, who probably remains the same target was going to be, if not more of one. So how do you think this affects the rest of the team? How, if you own Robbie Anderson, are you completely panicking right now?
Yes. Siemian, I believe, has a clause in his contract. He gets a bonus of, what was it, $30,000 if he plays 50% of the snaps, but the team has to win. So maybe he's got some incentive. But yes, It's a rough situation. I think Crowder probably is the benefit here, right? So or gets the benefit, and Demaryius Thomas might a little bit too, because Simeon has played with Demaryius Thomas and is comfortable with Demaryius Thomas. So yes, I think Robbie Anderson. I would be concerned with Robbie Anderson until Sam Darnold gets back.
Yeah, I think Robbie Anderson was likely to have a down season anyway with the cornerback matchups that he has. I forget where it ranks, but it ranks pretty bad, like top 10 hardest or something. Throwing Trevor Siemian in there does not help that even a little bit. Crowder should be fine, and then Herndon, when he makes it back from his suspension, will be fine. I thought Demaryius Thomas might have some value there when he came over, but now I'm not so sure without Darnold. So it's Crowder and Bell, and then that's really the only two that I would even think about starting from that roster.
Right.
Maybe this is why my camera went out, by the way, just in time for this conversation, because I cannot keep a straight face when talking about an NFL player with mono, like getting mono, like grow up and get the clap or something, for one thing.
Get better. We're moving the goalposts on these diseases here.
Yeah. Like, now you have to consider this when you go to draft an NFL quarterback. Like, this is why you want somebody who's 24 years old, because they've moved on from the kissing disease, and
this is why you draft someone from BYU. You saw them yesterday. They look good.
That too. Yeah. Go get yourself a virgin.
Tim Tebow's still available, right?
Yeah. Honestly, Trevor Siemian, like, this is it's gonna come. It's not gonna land well. I get that, this is coming from a Broncos fan, but honestly, Trevor Siemian's one of the better backups in the NFL. Now, he's still a backup quarterback. There's you're not running out to pick up Trevor Siemian and start him, even in a deep super flex league. But I think he can keep these wide receivers relevant. I think he can keep the Jets competitive. I don't know that Jamison Crowder is necessarily the beneficiary. I think, Robbie Anderson's got a little bit of a tough matchup here. So I think that you're probably staying away from him against Denzel Ward. But, man, this is a get-right game for the Browns, for one thing. And okay. I think that the Jets are going to be chasing points, and I think that Trevor Siemian can get the ball to your guys.
All right, we have a question in the chat from, Tact Assassin. What's up, buddy? I said Dak or Lamar this week, and either one have potential to repeat last week's fantasy output? Asking for a friend. I think we all know Lamar's not repeating what he did last week. Maybe, not necessarily from a point standpoint, but just from the way he did it standpoint. I would think most people think that they're going to find a way to get his wheels involved. So just from a practicality standpoint, I don't think so. But for my opinion, I think Lamar stands a much better chance than Dak for this week, only because Arizona looks so poor. And I think that Lamar they're going to be running the ball quite a bit. Mark Ingram is a little banged up, so Lamar could be a little more involved. Josh Norman is going to be on Amari Cooper. And I think, more importantly, I think Zeke is going to be very involved against the Redskins. So I think they're going to, after week one, he didn't have a preseason. So I think they're going to be using Zeke a heck of a lot more. So of the two, I'd rather go Lamar this week. Yeah. I like them. I do like them both. But you're making me choose between two people I really want to start.
I think both of them are going to be top 10. I say top 10. They could potentially be top 5 QBs this week because they both face bad defenses. Washington was just lit up by Carson Wentz. And I think that Dallas showed that they might be a better offense than the Eagles, and I know that hurts Shane a little bit.
It's a lie, but that's okay. If we're just going to tell lies on the show, that's
lie. I don't know if I necessarily agree, Matt, with your sentiment about Lamar Jackson. I do think he'll run more, but the way that Cardinals defense looked, especially in the secondary, they could be throwing a decent amount again with Lamar Jackson this week. And he may not have to use his legs.
I just think for him to literally repeat what he did last week from a point stand total, I would think that it's not going to come from 5 touchdowns.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
But I would not. I will say this, and you have to take it with a grain of salt for me because of my bias towards Lamar Jackson. But
Thank
I mean,
with John, the floating head thing is creeping me out.
But yeah, with that secondary and really just that offense as a whole, or that defense as a whole, I would not be surprised to see him do 303 touchdowns again. Again, a little bit biased, but the way he looked last week, and he plays a bad defense again this week, I would not be surprised to see that again.
No, and that defense is bad, and the Baltimore defense is actually banged up too. So this has like a under the radar like shootout potential, which I personally would love. Arizona's missing both their starting cornerbacks, and I believe Baltimore's missing Jimmy Smith is hurt again. So I like Lamar more than Dak, but no, I don't think either of them are going to. I don't think one's scoring 5 touchdowns and the other's throwing for 400 yards this week.
Yeah, Arizona is just such a gift for fantasy because they run so many plays. They run that high-paced, up-tempo offense as if the goal is to get your defense back on the field, and then their defense is just absolute trash and can't stop anyone. So yeah, it's I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that Lamar does roughly the same thing. After he played Miami, and I had been listening to Stompy all offseason talking about how Lamar Jackson is just going to be the best quarterback for fantasy purposes, move over Pat Mahomes. And I was just so
I
sick
have never, first and foremost, I've never said that.
Okay, Mahomes is the exception. Everybody else, though. Yes. And then he comes out and throws 5 touchdowns. And I was like, just wait till he plays an actual NFL defense. Who's he play next week? Oh crap!
On that,
he's got Arizona. It's not a whole lot better.
Can we stop moving the goalposts on him, please?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the goalposts don't have to move here. He's got such an amazing schedule to start this season that I don't think that it's really even fair at this point to say that it's a matchup theme. I mean, you plan on starting Lamar just in pretty much every case. He's got a great schedule, and he's going to go out and do the same thing that he's been doing, just based on the fact that, I mean, he plays who he's got on the schedule, and it kind of is what it is. So
they force you to do that in the NFL. You have to play who's on the schedule. They don't let you work around that.
Yeah, and you don't have to apologize for it. Just take advantage.
All right, we're gonna jump right into the games because we learned from the last show that, oh my God, that takes a little bit of time. Yeah. So we're gonna go game by game. We're gonna pick against the spread like we did, and we're gonna go with starts and sits and DFS plays. Anything really pertinent we want to tell you from there out. Going over how we did last week. I actually had the numbers up here. We didn't do too well. Our guest Benny Heiss went 5-10. Because we didn't. It went 5-10 with the games, or 5-10. Sam went 6-9. I went 7-8. So I'm not sure actually what we're aiming for as far as success rate, but I think winning percentage would be nice. So let's aim to do a little better. Let's aim to do it better this week. So, starting in the first game is the Indianapolis Colts at the Tennessee Titans. A 1:00 game. Tennessee currently is the favorite 5.5 with an over-under of 44. I know that everyone was super excited about Tennessee last week, just like brutalizing the Browns, but they're not going to be putting up those kind of points here against the Colts. I would definitely assume this is a lot closer overall, and I'll definitely take the Colts. I think Tennessee is going to win, but I think I'll definitely take the Colts if Tennessee's at 5.5. And my play of the game here is, I don't know. I'm not excited about any of them. Derrick Henry, I think it'll be a struggle fest. And Derrick Henry is someone I didn't draft looked just fantastic last year, and it's obvious they're just going to continue to give him the ball. And I'm afraid of pretty much everyone else in the game as far as any level of confidence except for Derrick Henry.
I'm going to try and avoid bashing Marcus Mariota for John's sake.
Why start now?
Because I'm a good person.
He looked good. He looked good last week. He just did.
He just did.
I do agree. I think this is going to be a defensive struggle. The Colts have a better defense than we saw last week, but the Chargers also have a very good offense. And I don't. And the Titans have a very good defense. We saw it against the Browns. So I think I agree. I'm going to take the Colts at 5.5 because it's going to be a defensive struggle. I think I'm betting the under on this as well. And I agree. Derrick Henry here. I guess AJ Brown if you're desperate. So I guess I don't really like anybody in this game. I'm probably avoiding as much as possible. I get like you probably want to start Marlon Mack, but I would temper expectations there. If you have AJ Brown and you're desperate, he's probably the best pass catcher in this game besides T.Y. Hilton.
Well, that's incorrect. It's actually Corey Davis, but that's okay.
Is it? The 0 for 3 Corey Davis?
Yes, he was matched up with Denzel Ward, whatever. Yeah. It's fine. He's going to be all right. You just shut your mouth. So you moved the line, too. I thought it was 4.5.
5.5.
It is 5.5? Oh, yeah. I'll take the Colts to cover, too, but I will take Tennessee. And I think Corey Davis is going to have a bounce back because – honestly, I can't believe that, he had 84% snap share last week. AJ Brown, I love AJ Brown. He did what he did on 3 targets. So he definitely performed on those minimal targets, but it's not like he went out there and just dominated the target share. So I'm going to keep plugging Davis in there until he proves me right.
I wish I could comment further on this because I was trying to find it. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, so I can't, I'm talking out my ass sort of. But Marlon Mack was pretty much the reason I was totally off him in the offseason was the lack of a PPR ceiling as far as contributing through the air. He, in week 1, he ran significantly more routes than Nyheim Hines. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know I saw it was like maybe 3 times as many, if not more. So I that's something to keep an eye on to see how that goes going forward. Because I know there was a lot of rumors in the offseason that they were going to try to make him like more of an every down back. So I didn't really watch that game closely as far as, routes being run. But apparently he got ran out there quite a bit. It could be because of game script and everything, but it's something worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, Marlon Mack is the only guy I'm particularly interested in this game, and I think he's actually a pretty strong play. But yeah, I'll take the under and Colts to cover.
Alrighty. So moving on to the Chargers at Lions. We already talked about that. Actually, before we get that, we have a question in the chat from Justin from the Father-Son podcast. He says, "Yo, ass hats on the stream." He wants us to talk about Mecole Hardman for a second. He likes him as a flex play. What do we like him? I mean, who's an interesting player that most people are starting that they would consider starting Hardman over? I know everyone is going insane because Tyreek Hill is out and everyone thinks he's going to fill in, but Tyreek Hill was out for the entire game and he had like 1 target and 0 catches. So I am not starting him too many places unless I just am throwing a dart. If I have anyone I have any kind of confident floor in, I'm starting him over Hardman.
Yeah, I agree there. I mean, like in DFS, he might be a good GPP play, like actually his percent ownership might be relatively high because of the people's belief that he's going to step into that Tyreek Hill role. So I have to feel you have better options that will have that you feel, well, I'm going to bet I have to believe you have better options than Mecole Hardman. That's fine, Justin. Snaps, though. That's fine. But he had 1 target in those snaps, and Demarcus Robinson had a lot more targets. So I would think that most of these targets go to Kelsey, go to Watkins, go to Demarcus Robinson. I don't think you can start Hardman with confidence this week until he shows us something.
He says he has McCole, McLaren, and Royce in a PPR, and nope, he doesn't have better options. For me, McLaren, it's actually not even close for me.
He's the wide receiver 1 there, so it's got to be McLaren.
Yeah, and I mean, McLaren, if you want to just talk about snap shares, he was on the field 91% of the offensive plays last week, and he had 7 or 8 targets. And it's not one of those cases where you're looking at, well, at least he had targets and snap shares. He actually produced with those targets, and actually should have had another touchdown if it wasn't for Case Keenum not being particularly good at throwing the football. So that's McLaren easy for me until I see McCole Hardman actually used as a weapon on that Chiefs team.
Yeah, John, any thoughts on the McCole Hardman situation?
No, I think you guys pretty much covered it. I think we've got to see it. The only thing I would say is if the Thursday night game left you in a pretty big hole, I think Hardman has he's the type of home run hitter that you might take a shot with if you're in a deep hole here. If maybe you're playing against the combination of DJ Moore and Chris Godwin, for instance. He's the type of guy I would throw in there, especially over some of the low ceiling guys. Kenny Golladay is somebody who I'm just avoiding everywhere against Casey Hayward. So this is more against Golladay than it's in favor of Hardman. But that's a move that I would make, especially if I was in a hole.
I don't know if I agree with that because of volume.
I don't know how much volume is Golladay really going to get against Casey Hayward. I mean, they just no one really throws against him.
I mean, he's still the wide receiver 1 there. I still expect him to get at least. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I would say 5 to 6 targets at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
He had 9 targets last week, obviously against the Cardinals. But it's a valid point. But the risk is too high for me with Hardman.
Yeah, and to me, all the risk is on Golladay. Hayward might be the low-key toughest matchup in the NFL.
And we have in the chat also now, Justin, Latavius Murray or Malcolm Brown. The answer to that is McCole Hardman. Although they did come out and say that he's going to continue to goal line work this morning, Malcolm Brown, which is interesting that they actually went out of their way to come out and say that, which is a lot of people were assuming that may not be the case. So, I mean, for Todd Gurley owners, sorry for your loss. But I don't want to start either of those. That's horrible. I guess if I had to, I'd start Malcolm Brown. Latavius didn't look like he had much of a role at all, but yeah, I mean, that's there's someone on your bench I'd rather start. I guarantee it. There is.
Yeah, Murray, except for the touchdown, which we know are fluky, especially when you're a backup, really didn't do much at all last week. And this sets up as a game where New Orleans is going to have to throw a lot, and the linebackers aren't the best at covering running backs. So Kamara should be on the field most of the game, from my lips to God's ears, and just, get a lot of that work. Murray might end up with a touchdown by accident again, but I think I'll go ahead and grab Malcolm Brown. They've already shown you what he's going to be. He is the goal line guy right now, and he's going to get at least 10 carries, it looks like.
He says this is actually a 0 running back RB2 spot. These two are in, so that's why you don't go 0 running back. That's a great example why you don't go 0 running back.
And 0 running back looks good later in the season, but I'll tell you what, to start the season, it is rough because you're like, wow, I got 18 backups.
You're waiting for Chris Carson to go down, so your Rashad Penny pick is good. All right, well, let's move on to the Chargers at the Lions. Get on with the rest of the games here. We talked about this a little bit when we were talking about Mike Williams. The line right now is the Chargers are a road favorite, 2.5. Over-under is 47. This game was a lot more interesting 1 week ago. Matthew Stafford here is is very interesting. He looked great last week. I think they said his average career dropbacks is like 38. He had 51 last year, which is I think like maybe the third highest of his career. I worry about starting any of his pass catchers though, because he definitely spread it around. Hawkinson and Amendola had a ton of targets. Not that Hawkinson had a little higher ADOT than you would normally think a tight end would have, so he's actually going down the field a bit. Marvin Jones wasn't involved at all, and Galladay was not as involved as people would like. I can't see sitting many of them. The one start sit that I think they had the most questions about is Marvin Jones. I mean, that could be another situation where if you're already down to like a Chris Godwin, if you had Marvin Jones or Mecole Hardman, that could be a situation where you try to swing for the fences. It just depends on how your matchup is going. But the only guy I'm 1,000% happy with in this game is Austin Eckler, who, if you don't think he's an RB1, he is. If until Melvin Gordon comes back, he looked great. They're obviously going to give him the ball. Austin Eckler should be started. Don't even think about it. Just start Austin Eckler.
Sorry, what was the line again?
It's 2.5. Oh yeah, I didn't even take the line. I'm gonna go Lions.
Oh.
It's 2.5 for what? For the Chargers?
Yeah, Chargers road favorite 2.5.
Yeah. Ooh.
And this is a 1 o'clock game.
Yeah.
So it's a West Coast team heading east. I think I'll take the Lions as well. I think Hawkinson is my DFS play this week. Without Derwin James, I think the Chargers are much more susceptible to tight ends. Hawkinson seems like they want to emphasize Hawkinson in that pass game. So yeah, I'll take the Lions, and then I really like Hawkinson this week as well. I mean, Austin Eckler I think is the obvious choice, but
you can get him in the vicinity of around $4,000 less on DraftKings than Travis Kelce, who is actually due for a giant bounce back because of the touchdowns being called back and him being Travis Kelce. But again, $4,000. I mean, Hawkinson is quite the value this week. What do you think, Shane?
In DFS, I know I'm playing Kelsey, but that's just because I went with a bunch of other cheap options.
I am too. I'm not downplaying it. I'm just saying that that's like a pretty big disparity.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's just, I mean, not to be this guy, but I want to see it again. They threw a lot more than I expected, and a lot more than Darrell Bevell has ever shown that he'd ever want to throw in his life. And I don't know that was by design so much as just it kind of happened. But I will take the Lions as underdogs. I'm sorry, just a West Coast team coming to the East Coast on a 1 o'clock game. I'm not good with time, but that's like 3 o'clock in the morning to them. So obviously
not quite, but yeah. I'm with you on Hawkinson a little bit. I love him, and I'd be wary only because I not against him, but you said they threw a ton. Marvin Jones wasn't involved. I got to think that percentage for the rest of the season is going to even out in a different way than it was. I'm not sure what it's going to be. Amendola got a ton of targets. That's the obvious guy to be taken away, but ask anyone who's a New England Patriots fan. This guy totally could be used that much. So I'd like to see it. But I do love Hawkinson. He's way cheap enough to use in DFS. But yeah, it's just a weird situation. What about you, John?
Yeah, I mean, definitely Eckler. Marvin Jones, I think, is fine. I mean, I think you kind of chase the opposite side of the field, stay away from Casey Hayward, and that puts you on Marvin Jones. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna take the Chargers to cover. I'm gonna take the over on the points, and the big reason for this is I think that the Chargers can put the Lions in a positive game script for the passing game, because I think they can move the ball with Eckler. And the big thing is Keenan Allen. I don't think Darius Slay really moves into the slot very much. So I think Keenan Allen is going to run free. I think that Slay ends up probably on Travis Benjamin is probably their main outside guy. So
just wondering if they're going to waste him there. And I am using the word waste.
Yeah. But I think that's what they do. I think they really just leave him on his side more than anything. Definitely on the outside. I mean, we saw Larry Fitzgerald last week from the slot go for 11 catches, something like that. So Keenan Allen in the slot is he's worth it in DFS, whatever his cost is.
Benny Heist, welcome to the show, bud. Sorry about earlier, by the way. My computer literally turned against me.
That's always unfortunate when the computer wins. Normally, I'm all about the human-computer terrific interaction between everybody. But, yeah, I was sad to see you go. But Stompy stepped in. He crushed it. And I appreciate both of you guys filling in today.
Of course, my friend.
That's why the mercenaries, they come to the rescue.
Yeah, no kidding. That's basically the standard definition of what you guys do is you help me out when I needed you the most.
Yeah, my screen just said "not today, Matt," and it shut down. So we just got started with the game. So you were asking me earlier how we did against the spread, Benny, and not good. You went 5-10. Sam went 6-9. I went 7-8. Ooh. So we're all going to try to get on the actually more wins than losses train. So going back, who do you like?
By the way, there is a question in the chat because we just talked about the Detroit Lions and Hawkinson.
Yes.
Hawkinson or Mark Andrews this week. I'm all over Mark Andrews. We saw what Hawkinson did to the Cardinals last week. Andrews is the top pass catcher for Lamar Jackson, so it's definitely Mark Andrews for me.
Yep, definitely. We said we want to see it again from Hawkinson. We saw it last year from Mark Andrews, and then in week 1, Lamar Jackson loves Mark Andrews. Until he proves otherwise, he's the wide receiver 1, in my opinion, technically on the Ravens. So, yeah, definitely Andrews. Shane?
No dispute there. I thought that was just an obvious thing. No?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, Mark Andrews, I think he was 3rd in snap shares for their tight ends, but it doesn't matter because when he's on the field, he's running a route. And when he's running a route, like 50% of the time he's getting a target. So all about the Mark Andrews. That's not going to stop. Lamar loves him some Mark Andrews.
John or Benny, either you disagree with Andrews?
No,
nope.
I'm all on Mark Andrews this week as well.
All right. Yeah, going back to get you caught up, Benny. Colts at Tennessee. Tennessee is a home favorite, 5.5. Who do you like there? We won't dive into the game because we did it, but we can get you on the board for the spread.
Yeah, these games always tend to be close, and I think what we saw from the Colts is that they have a full commitment to Marlon Mack week in and week out now, especially with Jacoby Brissett under center. And Mack, to me, is a nice little under-owned weapon this week, and I do think the Colts will keep it close, and I think they cover the 3.
Nice. Yeah, that's 5 for 5. We're all on the Colts.
Shit.
Jesus.
And you thought you were being cute. Chargers at Detroit, we just finished up. Chargers are road favorite, 2.5. Over-unders 47. Who do you like there?
Let's see. What was the total line for the Chargers again? It was
47 over-under, and they're the road favorite at 2.5.
I've actually seen the line move as far down as minus 1.5. So there's a little late action coming in on the Lions for some reason. No, I'm a believer in when the Chargers go away from their soccer stadium, they tend to have a home field advantage. And Detroit just feels like one of those teams that if they are able to control tempo, they'll keep it close, but they'll also find a way to Lions all over themselves as well, is kind of what we saw last week. Might be a trap. I might be buying into what I saw from Austin Eckler last week, but I will take the Chargers minus the points.
Okay. That one we are actually 2-3, so we are split there.
Okay.
Moving into the next game, Buffalo Bills at the New York Giants. Buffalo sticking around in New York, which is weird. I assume this has happened in history, but I just can't remember how many people actually play the Jets in New York and then play the Giants in New York the next week. That can't be that common of an occurrence, right?
It happens 6 times a year. 6 times. I just looked it up. That's definitely a fact.
So yeah, they're more than happy to stick around in New York for this one. At the Giants to literally only have one guy catching the ball that's not Saquon Barkley, and that's Evan Engram. Everyone else is hurt or suspended. So Bills are a favorite on the road for only 2.5, 42.5 points. Benny, starting with you, what do you like? Who do you like to win, or who do you like for the spread here, and who do you like to start, sit, or any DFS plays?
I just had my computer blink in front of me. Give me the matchup one more time. I'm so sorry.
Bills at Giants.
Bills
Buffalo,
at Giants. Okay.
Favorite.
I will take Buffalo to cover the spread in this game. Josh Allen is sort of that cash game lock for a lot of people this week. We saw what Dak Prescott was able to do and carving out against the Giants while he was at home last week. And I do expect the Giants to play a tad bit better at home. And The thing for Allen is that that rushing floor is just so high in each and every week. And John Brown is more than just a downfield weapon now. So I'm excited to see what they're able to do with the offense. Singletary was terrific in the opportunities that he had. So I think as long as they continue to use him and move further away from Frank Gore, I feel more and more confident with Buffalo. So I'll take them here.
All right, how about you, John?
Yeah, Buffalo to cover for sure. And I think Devin Singletary is going to be my play here. First of all, 4 carries, all of them over 10 yards. I think he's going to get more work and probably won't keep up that yard per carry average. But he can definitely get somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 yards and a touchdown, I think, today. And the ghost of Snacks Harrison continues to haunt the Giants.
Shane, who do you like here?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bills. I love the Bills. I didn't say that. I didn't mean that. Nobody means that. No, I like the Bills a lot today. And that's one of those stacks is that Josh Allen, John Brown stacks that I've gotten a couple DFS lineups too. So yeah, give me the Bills, and then I got to bounce because my family's coming home. So make sure you wrote down my picks.
He's ashamed of us. He's ashamed of us, folks. The family's home, so he's got to go.
Family's home. They're going to come through my recording studio, and that's unacceptable. So I'm going to take the Bills, and then I'm going to bounce.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
All right, Sam, who do you like in this one?
Yeah, definitely Bills. I agree with Benny. That Allen Brown stack is just too good to pass up in DFS this week. I really like Brown just overall. I think he had eight targets last week, caught 7 for well over 100 yards and a touchdown. I think that continues this week. We saw the Cowboys just carve up that Giants secondary, and then the Bills. Defense, I think, is super underrated. They're never really talked about as one of the top defenses in the league, but they are one of the top defenses in the league.
Also, Sam, I think, went with on the Fantasy Sports Markets Fantasy Football Sunday show. I think he went with John Brown over Tyler Lockett today.
I did.
Stones, my friend. Stones.
And it's one of those things where it's like, and I talked about it, the combination of and we saw it last year of a big arm quarterback with John Brown is money. And now combine it with a horrendous secondary in New York, and you basically got a big game coming from John Brown this week.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little different here, and I'm going to go with the Giants. I'm kidding. They're horrible. I'm going with the Bills.
Take it from Maddie. How about that?
If you haven't been following me, my DFS not play of the week is Evan Ingram. Everyone took Shepard's concussion and Tate's suspension and Latimer. I don't know if he's playing. Slayton's out. Everyone just assumed Evan Ingram's going to get 1 million targets. He's a chalk play. He's not a chalk play. The Buffalo Bills are not a worse defense because all the other players are hurt. It makes them more dangerous. Not only are they going to stack the box against Saquon Barkley, they're going to stare down Evan Ingram like he stole something. So I would not play him in DFS. There's plenty of very cheap options. And if you're in fantasy sports markets, again, if you go with Kelsey, if you want to go chalk, there's much safer options than Ingram. He's not guaranteed anything safe here in a game that's going to be ugly, and that they're going to be probably double teaming him as often as humanly possible. So I'll go with the Bills and avoid Evan Ingram as any kind of chalk play in DFS. Arizona Cardinals at Baltimore Ravens. We mentioned this one earlier. This could be an exciting game. The Ravens defense is a little banged up, but they're still pretty solid. I expect them to give Kyler Murray some fits. Baltimore is favored at home by 14. The over-under is 41.5. I am still going to go with Baltimore. I think that I'm excited to see what the air raid show looks like in week 2. I'm hoping that they'll still keep up the absurd amount of snaps, keeping their defense on the field for way too long and allowing Baltimore to just run amok. So that is a tough line. I'm going to go with the Cardinals because 14, I'll gladly go with the Patriots later, spoiler alert, on a big line, but it's the NFL. Games happen to be closer than they should. So I will go with the Cardinals here. And my play of the day is it is Lamar Jackson. There's no other way I'd go. I did say in DFS and GPP I like Christian Kirk because Larry Fitzgerald had led the team in targets. Only one less target was Christian Kirk. He had way less production, but for how cheap you can get him in salary DFS, I like him as a shot because if things even out and this game does turn into more of a little more of a shootout than we expect, he could be a very cheap option to return on investment, but that is a risk. So, as far as just season long, pretty much all the Ravens and none of the Cardinals.
It's tough to sit Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk in season long because of the play volume from the Cardinals. But I get it. I don't really love any of the Cardinals this week. I think for Superflex Super Show, I had said that many of them were. You're going to have to temper expectations even on Kyler as well because this Ravens defense is very good. But in terms, I'm taking the Ravens here, and then in terms of DFS, I can't get my mind off of Willie Snead. I like Willie Snead this week. We saw
the first time that's ever been said. I can't get my mind off of Willie Snead. It's amazing.
It may have been said in New Orleans.
Okay.
It may have.
That's fair.
But I've even asked people about my DFS contacts about it. They said, I just don't think that he's going to get the volume, but I can't get away from him. Danny Amendola had 13 targets last week. I don't think Willie Snead gets that volume, but it just shows me that the Cardinals are susceptible to those slot receivers. And last year, Snead was probably the second favorite target for Lamar Jackson behind Mark Andrews, and he caught a touchdown last week. He only had 3 targets, but I expect more targets this week, and I think he could be a sneaky GPP play.
I agree with what you're saying. For your exact reasoning, though, I just feel like more targets are going to Mark Andrews. But I can see what you're saying. It makes total sense. But I guess at GPP, it's worth a shot. Anyway, Benny, to you.
The line? I think 14. I saw is 14. Yeah, Baltimore's really good, but Arizona still has the ability to probably backdoor cover in this one. So I will take Arizona minus the points. Whatever total you gave, Maddie, just feels way, 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 way too low.
Yeah, 41.5. Low, right? Bills Giants was 42.5.
That's crazy.
This legit has a chance of being like a low key, high scoring affair.
Yeah, that's like mortgage payment on the over if that number is actually still where it is. As far as Baltimore goes, Lamar Jackson is the clear cut cash play in this game. And by the way, the fact that we have multiple Superflex guys here is very exciting because you can play Superflex over at fantasysportsmarkets.com. Imagine making a lineup with Mahomes and Lamar Jackson in it this week. It's a very giddy feeling, and I certainly did that. But having said that, I think when it comes to Baltimore, with Jackson, I'm also trying to figure out too what's going on with Mark Ingram. Like, he's questionable all week. I'm supposed to be active, but maybe this is an opportunity with like super duper low ownership that we might see a little bit more Justice Hill than initially anticipated. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I'm as confident to make any actionable choices on it. But I agree with you. It could happen, but I'm not sure I'm confident enough in starting the Gus Bus or Justice Hill or anyone because of it.
Not in season long, but like it's just a deep, deep dart throw in DFS.
I guess there's so many other options I like that it hasn't crossed my mind. There's just so many just other options. With guys like Rex Burkhead sitting around or Damian Harris, like if you want to go with that narrative of someone being banged up, I'd almost rather go over there. But I could see it. I don't think I would do it.
My pivot might be Gus Edwards, if anything. He had the most, and I know 17? Matt hates him.
I don't hate him.
Nah, you hate him. But he had the most snaps and he had the most carries in that backfield. And I don't expect this to be a blowout, but it seems like Gus Edwards is involved a lot more than a lot of people thought. So
So the problem is it's really hard to glean anything from that Miami game. I mean, that's essentially you pull the varsity and put in the JV. And it's
I think
totally
that's what you get from there. Is that that's all.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's absolutely what Gus Edwards could be. The other problem here is we also don't actually know yet what this Ravens defense looks like against a real NFL team, because
a real NFL. Here we are moving the goalposts again.
I'm not.
I think that's
I'm not the one who
fair.
moved. I don't think I'm the one who moved the goalposts. I think the Miami Dolphins are the ones that moved the goalposts by going all in on going all out. So
I watched University of Georgia play yesterday, and they would kick the Dolphins' ass.
They would. They would not. That is a complete nonsense.
Once Minka Fitzpatrick's gone, we'll revisit it.
Did the Dolphins?
That's fair. Once he's gone.
Did the Dolphins actually want to win that game? That's the whole question.
Yeah,
this is all about motivation.
If they start to go, he's going to just take out Drake and everyone. No. We're going to lose this one.
Yeah. We just, whatever it takes to tank for two.
Who do you like, John, at Baltimore, the 14-point favorite?
So based on the fact that we don't know what the Ravens defense actually is, and keep in mind that a lot of losses in the offseason between, CJ Mosley and Terrell Suggs, and then the other outside linebacker. And then now they lose Jimmy Smith. There's a chance that this defense isn't nearly as good as what we're used to. So I think that the Cardinals can cover. I don't think that they're going to win, but I think that they can cover. And my play is going to be Mark Andrews. I've got him as a top 5 tight end this week.
Okay. We have a question in the chat. Michael Stepney, what's up, buddy? 12-team half PPR. Dede Westbrook, Larry Fitzgerald, and Duke Johnson start 2 for flex position. For me, Dede is the obvious one for me. Houston is awful versus wide receiver ones. I don't care who the quarterback is. Dede is the guy there, so he is my easy guy. Fitzgerald, I'm a little worried about with Kirk taking a lot. Getting a lot more. Pretty much everyone on that team could get more involved in the offense. I just don't know what to expect. I want to see it another week. Duke Johnson, I think in that game, I don't like Carlos Hyde in that one, but I think Duke Johnson stands to get a lot of work. So I like Johnson and Dede for myself.
Yeah, I got to go with Dede here. I do like Duke Johnson. He's going to get probably 10 to 15 touches again this week, but I mean, I think Westbrook, with a young quarterback, I think Westbrook is going to be kind of the guy that he leans on.
I think
was that your 2? He has to start 2 of them.
Start 2? Then it's Westbrook and Duke. I agree. The Baltimore Ravens, regardless of turnover, is still a very good defense. They got Earl Thomas, which makes their secondary better. They are without Jimmy Smith, but they still have a fantastic secondary. They still have a fantastic defense. I think Fitz is not going to have close to the game that he had last week.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think the safe route is Dede and Duke. I think the higher upside route is Dede and Fitzgerald, especially if you think Arizona's just going to have to throw all day. I think Gardner Minshew was like 50th in the country in air yards when he was in college. So dink and dunk all day. Westbrook probably benefits the most from that. And I also think it's another reason why you should consider Fournette in this game.
Definitely. John, who would you take of those 2?
Yeah, I'll bench Fitzgerald.
Okay. We got to say same thing as last show. I guess we have to continue moving because we love talking about these games. New England Patriots at Dolphins. Patriots road 15.5 right now. I think it was up to 19.5 at one point. Whatever it is, even if it was 19.5 over New England Patriots, the over under here is 47. But yeah, Patriots all day. The guy that I like the most here besides the Patriots defense is Tom Brady, stacking him with nobody. Just throw him in there. He's going to have a ton of people to throw to. Even if it's only 1/2 of production, it's probably plenty and enough to get you where you want to go. So I love Tom Brady, even in a non-stack, and definitely Patriots.
I agree. It's Patriots. I like the Michelle Patriots defense stack. I know Patriots defense are the most expensive, but if if they're going to blow them out, I think this is a Michelle week. And obviously that offense is just atrocious, and the Patriots made the Steelers look silly last week, and they're going to definitely make the Dolphins look silly this week.
With Michelle's injury history, if it's as big of a blowout as we think, and we were taking the over here, are you worried about Michelle just not even getting the carries, even though it should be a Michelle game?
No, I'm not.
Okay. What about you, Benny?
Michelle feels like it's the obvious and the right play, but it's still the Patriots, and they tend to screw with you a little bit. I'm still going to have some exposure to him. If it's more than, say, I think if it's more than 17.5, I have to hold my nose and take Miami to cover. It's a lot of Belichick disciples on that Dolphins team. I don't know if they're going to want to completely embarrass them. And also historically, home underdogs of that value, I think since maybe 15 or 15.5 have all pretty much covered in the regular season. So I'll take Miami to cover. I think Antonio Brown gets into the end zone this week. I don't know what his snap count will be. I don't know what his targets are going to be, but just they can do whatever they want against Miami. It's a good way to welcome him to the team and let him feel good about himself and have business be booming for about a week or so. So I'll say Brown gets a touchdown, but Michelle is still probably the play that I want. And of course, yeah, Brady is always a great play.
I know I said I wouldn't talk about any of the social stuff with him, but he's going to go for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then he's going to get suspended on Wednesday after everyone traded for him or paid top dollar. That's what's going to happen, because that's the only way this story could go. I mean, they got to keep going up a notch. What do you think, John?
Yeah, so based on that, use Antonio Brown because it might be your last chance. Definitely the cheapest he's going to be for a while. So, yeah, I just totally agree with everything Benny just said. I mean, this is a perfect opportunity to get Antonio Brown involved and get him immersed in the offense. So I think that he's the play. Sony Michel also in for a big game, but Antonio Brown is just a little bit more sneaky for me, and so that's the guy I'm gonna go with. And then, man, as far, yeah, I think you got to. I hate this, but I'm gonna go with the Dolphins to cover. I don't.
I'm not
like
sure
that.
I wouldn't take the over if it was the New England by 35. I mean, obviously I'd take the under there, but still, well, I mean,
like Benny said, I mean, the Brian, if there's a game that Brian Flores wants to at least be competitive, it's at home against his former team, against the Patriots.
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't think
it's not even. Yeah, like the big thing is whether it's competitive, like he wants to be competitive or not. He doesn't have the personnel to be competitive.
Yeah, I think Ben was saying that this could be competitive because Belichick wouldn't want to step on his throat, not because Flores has anything to say about it.
Right? They'll step on his floor. They'll step on their flow. Like, it's still the Patriots. They're not going to put themselves in any sort of potential situation or I don't know, Miami could come back and win this game.
Well, I mean, whatever. Step on their throat, then dump a bag of garbage on them. That's what they can do here. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that they're more than willing to do that. I think the motivation is there for Bill. He has not
get Flores,
been willing to take it. Yeah. It's not a hey, thanks for your time served here in New England. We're gonna take it easy on you. It's kind of the opposite with Belichick. So, but I mean, I think that the talent is there. I think to cover. I mean, not to win this game by any means. Just
what talent though are you seeing there that they could cover?
I think
they're scoring 6 points. That's my main issue. I think 6 points is 2 field goals. That's what they're getting.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, offensively, there's
unless New England's actually subbing out defensive players. That's the only reason they could ever get back into it.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's going to be a competitive game. I just think that Brian Flores can coach up this defense enough to keep it within 2 scores. That's all I'm saying. I don't know that. I don't think the Patriots are necessarily looking to come out and throw deep the way Lamar Jackson was. They're still happy to control the ball on the ground and run the clock. That's what they've always done, and I don't think they're going to get away from that.
Before we move on from the game, a comment in the chat. No James Whitelove. in redraft season long, you're starting him. You have to. As far as DFS, it's confusing because of the way they use Rex Burkhead. When he's healthy, Bill Belichick likes to use him. He just does. And you have James White through the air. You have Sony Michel on the ground. You have Rex Burkhead kind of stealing from both bulls. So I don't know how I feel about James White. I'm avoiding him in DFS because it's such a confusing game script. We just said it can be anywhere from the wide receivers being very valuable because they're going to score a ton to they're going to get up so big. Sony Michel's going to score to they're up so big that they're actually taking everyone out. So no one's valuable. I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I like other people more, so that's why I'm not on James White. For redraft, though, you're starting him.
So I don't think it's confusing. I think where James White has the most value is in a game script where the Patriots are actually going to be chasing points, and I don't think that's the case here. That's why I'm mostly off of James White. I think it's a Sony Michel game because, again, they control the clock with him.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be throwing enough or having to throw enough that James White becomes viable here.
Mm-hmm.
He's just been so consistent in how they use him that I think first half it'll be what looks like the Patriots offense with James White. In the second half, depending on how much they're up, then I think it changes it. And I think if you think Miami is going to be more competitive than the majority of the public thinks, then I think James White is a terrific contrarian play.
Okay. Moving on to the Dallas Cowboys at Washington Redskins. Dallas road favorite, 7 points, over unders 44. This kind of screams Dallas beating them pretty badly, but it's in Washington and Vegas knows more than we do. That's just a fact of life. So I almost want to take the Redskins here but I'm not going to. Because divisional games are close, and they set this line for a reason. I'm going to take Dallas. I think Zeke is going to really have a big game here. Gallup. I mean, Amari's with Josh Norman. I don't know if that necessarily is a huge problem, but either way, Gallup has proven he can be a giant issue, and Randall Cobb had proved to be definitely a valuable weapon, and Dak Prescott is on top of his game. So I'll go with Dallas, and my start of the game is Michael Gallup. Josh Norman is on Amari Cooper. Everyone's on Amari Cooper as far as, just hype and DFS. So I think Michael Gallup is the start here.
Sorry, what was the line?
7 for Dallas.
Good Lord.
I know it screams Redskins, but I'm just not going to do it.
I'm going to actually take the Redskins here because that's at home. I mean, that's a big line in a division game. And the Redskins are not the New York Giants. So I think this one will be closer than we think. I do agree on Michael Gallup. I like Michael Gallup a lot this week. So, yeah, Gallup's stack is probably not a bad idea this week. We saw what the Washington Redskins gave up to DeJean Jackson last week, and I think that Gallup can continue his fantastic start.
Penny?
I will take Washington. I saw the line at Dallas -6.5. But even if it's 7, then I like Washington just as much. I like that they're going to be throw heavy, and they're saying Case Keenum, go ahead and make plays. And you have McLaurin as a downfield weapon. You have Vernon Davis, who somehow, despite being 1,000 years old, is making plays and making long yard after catch plays for Vernon Davis as well. So I'm expecting a few points on the Washington side as well. I don't think they win. And I think Zeke is in for line for a big day. Cooper and Gallup, certainly you can make great arguments for. And, I think Stabby and I were talking about the projected ownership for some of these Cowboys today, and nobody's on them. And it's stunning considering what we saw last week. Normally the public follows. I just don't know if the public trusts Dak Prescott, and this is a great matchup to go right back to him.
I agree. How about you, John?
Yeah, let's take Dallas to cover. And then I love Michael Gallup, but he's got quite a bit of airtime here. So I'll take Trey Quinn as a sneaky start just on some garbage time and high volume. There's not a whole lot to like on Washington, but I do think there's going to be an opportunity for garbage time.
I will say I forgot to mention Chris Thompson here. Chris Thompson,
good call.
in a role that Adrian Peterson just doesn't catch passes. I think Adrian Peterson's going to be shut down a little bit. Chris Thompson had 8. I still didn't look it up. 8 or 10 targets last week, and I think that continues going forward. I think Dallas is going to be up early in this one. I don't know how big it will be, and I'm wondering if Washington gets a garbage time touchdown to cover. But I think Chris Thompson will be heavily involved again.
Yeah, only 3 running backs led their team in targets in week 1, and Chris Thompson was one of them.
I do have a question on that. I have Chris Thompson on my bench, and I'm starting Tariq Cohen. Who would you take there?
I would take Chris Thompson just because Denver, I expect – I mean, you two are the Denver fans, John and Sam. I expect them to have a nice bounce-back game here, and they're obviously not using Tariq in the running game, at least as far as we saw. He had the most snaps of the running back, but it was mainly as a slot receiver. So I like Chris Thompson because I think the game script goes well for him, and I just think he's, at least for this week, I definitely think he's the better play.
Fair enough.
I mean, what do you think, John? I mean, what do you guys think of your? What do you guys think of your defense too? I think they'll bounce back from last week's effort.
Somewhat, yeah, but no, I think you absolutely nailed it. At this point, Tariq Cohen's a slot receiver, and Denver can absolutely cover that. I think the guy that they're going to have their hands full is David Montgomery.
Please, from your mouth to the football lords, because I'm a Bears fan, and I've been clamoring for as much Montgomery as humanly possible. He was one of the only backs that was going out and breaking tackles against Green Bay, and they just never gave him an opportunity to get into a rhythm. And I think it just opens up so much more for Trubisky to just know that they have a reliance on a running game, that if it opens up play action for him, he doesn't have to worry about having to throw 46 times because he's bad at football. And
he was in my GPP thread this morning. David Montgomery, he was in one of my GPP thread and the starts this week that I like. And I think I ended with Matt Nagy hopefully Matt Nagy woke up.
He's too smart not to use him. It doesn't make any sense.
Right?
Yeah. I've been putting Montgomery in place of Joe Mixon all over the place. We talked about Joe Mixon earlier, but I have no interest in dealing with that ankle injury. And yeah, I mean, not only is David Montgomery clearly the best back on Chicago, but we also saw the blueprint of how to beat Denver last week. And it's, first of all, it's short passing, take Von Miller and Bradley Chubb out of the game, but Josh Jacobs just ran right through him. And I don't think it doesn't sound like Todd Davis necessarily plays. I don't think that Denver's going to be able to do anything about it. So that's your path to winning in Denver here if you're Chicago. I don't see any other way for them to do it.
Benny, I don't want to burst your bubble as a Bears fan, but as a Packers fan, David Montgomery could still be in for some painful times because Jamal Williams should not be getting any snaps, and he continues to for years and years and years. So it can happen. It doesn't matter how good or bad you look. Sometimes coaches are just weird.
Yeah.
So good luck to you.
I know that was really surprising in week 1. I was hoping that they'd finally make a distinction. I also thought Jones would be more alive in the passing game in Matt LaFleur's offense too. I'm not giving up hope just yet, but
he looked like he learned his lesson in the second half as far as some play calling.
I agree. For sure.
We'll see. We'll get to that game pretty soon. We have 9 games to go. We've only been through 5, so we gotta skip through here with only 20 minutes to go. Peter Howard in the chat says, "Sup bitches."
That's helpful. Hey, Peter.
The Jacksonville Jaguars at Houston Texans.
Hi, Peter.
We got the Texans as a home favorite, 10 points versus the Jaguars, 43.5 the over-under. Jaguars are banged up. AJ Boyd is gone. Obviously, so is Nick Foles. I will. That's tough. I like the Texans a lot. I think that I will take the Jaguars to cover here because I think that this is going to be a little closer. People think, I think the running backs will get a little more involved, but with Boyd being out, it's not a secret that Will Fuller is a great play. Deshaun Watson becomes a good play, a better play there. So those are my 2. And I think Benny's going to talk about Leonard Fournette, so I won't go too far down that road, but I love Fournette as a star here. But Jags to cover. To you, Benny, what do you like in this game?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the Jags cover in this game, and I love what I saw in Fournette starting to get more involved in the passing game. You'd like to see him get more more than 13 carries. And I think if Foles had stayed in the game and the Chiefs didn't get off to such a big advantage early on, that he probably would have. I mean, they've clearly made an indication that they want him as the 3-down back. And that's always what you're targeting in DFS, right? You want running backs with volume that are going to be constantly on the field and that can also catch passes. And they believe in Fournette. So I think a lot of people might be disappointed in him last week, but I certainly can get bounced back with Fournette. And also, if you want, I know that Boye being out certainly isn't helpful, but maybe a contrarian play with Fournette and the Jags defense if you think that Deshaun Watson is not going to be able to stand up straight after a short week.
How dare you say anything bad about Deshaun Watson?
I wasn't blaming him. I'm blaming his crap offensive line.
Yeah, Tunsil, what are you doing, man? Is it because you weren't with the team long? I hope you got your head out of your ass today. Deshaun Watson needs you. Sam, what do you like in this game?
I actually might take Houston here. With AJ Bouye out, I think that opens up a lot over the top for Will Fuller, which could end up just blowing this game wide open. And it's Gardner Minshew. While he looked good last week, it's the Houston Texans are definitely better defense than the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's a rookie. I just think he probably could struggle. While I do think he could end up with like 250 and 2 touchdowns, I just think that without AJ Bouye, they're not going to be able to stop the Houston Texans offense. So I'm going to take Houston here, and then Matt and I kind of had to build a lineup last night because of the news. I built a Texans stack with Watson, Fuller, and DeAndre Hopkins. I just think that Fuller is in for a big game, not being covered by one of the corners of arguably the top 2 corners in the league, or the top duo of corners in the league.
Okay. One thing we didn't mention about before we went on to John here about Fournette being a nice play is the Texans defense is nowhere near as good as we hope to be. They're completely different without Clowney, at least from defending the run. Watt also hasn't been the same without Clowney there. So, I mean, that's another reason I really like Fournette. John, what do you like in this game? Houston favored by 10 at home.
Yeah, definitely Jags to cover. And the legend of Gardner mustache grows here. Chasing points, I think he's got a chance to put up a similar stat line to what he had last week. It's a pretty similar defense, really.
I disagree with that completely.
Of course you do. Everything. Okay. Tell me.
Do you really think that the Houston secondary is as bad as the Kansas City secondary?
It sure looked like it to me.
What?
Yeah.
Based on what?
Based on.
Yeah, you didn't have an answer there, did you?
We're gonna move on because we literally don't have time for dead air. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we don't.
Minutes and a lot of games to go. Seattle Seahawks at Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh looking to redeem themselves after the embarrassing Week 1 showing is favored at home by 4.5, 46.5. I will definitely take the Steelers here. Andy Dalton just lit up the Seahawks like really badly, and I expect big games out of Big Ben, Juju Smith-Schuster, maybe James Washington, and Dante Moncrief. I'm still not sure about James Conner in a game that could be a shootout, and he may not be utilized again this week. But I love everyone, and Big Ben is definitely my start of the day. I'll go with the Steelers, though. Starting with you, John, first on this one.
Yeah, Steelers to cover, Steelers to win, whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we knew. Has there been any news yet on James Conner? I know he's been sick. It's not the type of thing that they generally miss time.
No, I think he's expected to play. I don't think there's an issue there.
So he's going to play. I mean, stamina might be a little bit of an issue, but I mean, I still think that there's an opportunity here for James Conner to be the play of the game.
Sam?
Yeah, it's the Steelers. Washington's an interesting prospect. I mean, Big Ben at home, I think he produces like 7 more fantasy points at home than on the road. So James Washington might be interesting here with the Dante Moncrief struggles. I believe Washington was 8th in air yards last week, so he could hit a big play this week as well.
How about you, Benny?
Love Pittsburgh this week. And yeah, I think Connor's sort of that forgotten guy because of his terrible performance last week. A lot of people like Big Ben. A lot of people like Juju. James Washington, as you said, I think led the team in air yards last week, so he's intriguing. Maybe Vance McDonald also starts to get himself involved as well. He's always a big play ready to happen. And maybe you can also make an argument that Pittsburgh's defense, who I was very high on at the start of this season, did not look good against New England, but it's a more advantageous matchup this week. Like I said, with Seattle coming in and not being good on the road. So I think a lot of Steelers are in play. And then maybe I consider running it back with Tyler Lockett this week because I think he'll see more than 2 targets.
I could actually see running it back with DK, who I believe led the NFL in air yards last year. A lot of people don't realize. So if you want to be contrarian, DK is interesting. And I think in a flex spot, he's definitely up for discussion. San Francisco at Cincinnati is a pick 'em. Which I don't feel it should be. I think Cincinnati's going to win, and I think they're going to win easily. Joe Mixon, I am avoiding in all leagues. It doesn't matter that he's playing. My play of the game here is probably just Tyler Boyd, who everyone is on John Ross after last week, but Tyler Boyd is still Tyler Boyd. I expect him to have a great game against the San Francisco 49ers, who, guess what, aren't the best defense in football. Everyone's about to learn that today. So, yeah, I'll go with Cincinnati and Tyler Boyd. What do you think, Benny?
I think it's another bounce. It's a good spot for Cincinnati. I'm excited to see them take that next step with their offense into the modern era with Zach Taylor, as opposed to those 15 plus years of Marvin Lewis. And I'm also a buyer of John Ross. He was probably my favorite waiver wire pickup because not only could he just be dominant at times, but you can also flip him at his probably highest selling point when AJ Green comes back. So, how about that? Cincinnati possibly starting off 2-0 this year.
Yeah, I know it's something. Oh, in the chat, Peter Howard was asking if Mixon is playing. Yes, he tested his ankle before the game, and he is playing. We just don't know what degree that actually means. Sam, what do you like in this game?
Yeah, give me Cincy. I hate San Francisco. I hate Jimmy G so much. I think he's just not a good quarterback. I think Cincinnati defense and DFS is a contrarian play. I know a lot of people are off of Cincy defense. They do not have a good defense, but the matchup screams a good matchup this week for me, or I guess a good defensive matchup for me.
All right, John.
Man, I'm tempted to say Dante Pettis is my play. Now he's fully healthy, but I think
they say he's going to get a lot more snaps and take him from Debo. They actually, I don't know why teams come out and say this crap. I mean, maybe they're just lying, but that's what they say.
Yeah, there's a chance that they're just lying. Yeah, so I think we have to see it first. So I'll stay away from Dante Pettis for now, but just let the record show that he's tempting to me.
Hold on, did you take Cincy or 49ers here?
Cincinnati wins, and actually, I'm also gonna take the over. I believe the over under is 46. I think this could be a shootout.
Okay, Minnesota at Green Bay. You know what? I'll recuse myself. Green Bay, I'm going to pick. I think this will be a great game. Everyone citing the numbers, though, from Cousins, Thielen, and Diggs from the past games where they're just lighting up Green Bay. This is a different Green Bay defense. I still expect points to be scored here, but they're going to still try to stick to running the ball. So temper expectations on all your Vikings, but there's no reason to sit many people in this game. I still think Jimmy Graham is, until he probably gets more respect, is still a sneaky play. And if you're streaming tight end, I'd be perfectly happy starting him as well. Matt LaFleur, they're going to be going with some short passes here and there and taking deep shots. So I love Jimmy Graham here. So Ben, who do you like in this one?
I think Minnesota has a chance to cover, and I think it's all dependent on whether or not they really trust in Dalvin Cook and let him go. Green Bay said last week, we want Mitch Trubisky to play quarterback, and sure enough, they got their wish. I wonder whether they're saying the same thing this week and saying we want Kirk Cousins to play quarterback, and if they make Cousins throw, then I like Green Bay a lot more. But both Rodgers and Cousins, I believe, have struggled in this matchup, and Cook has a chance to be great. So
Cousins has actually done great. I think he's averaging like 380 yards in 3 games.
Okay, so then it was just Rodgers. I know Rodgers might have had one terrific game, so thank you for that. I do think Minnesota will cover in this game.
Okay, what do you think, Sam?
I'm gonna say Minnesota outright wins. I know. Sorry, Matt. that run game looked fantastic last week, and that defense shut down the Falcons, which we thought would be a fire or a high powered offense this season. So I think it's the Minnesota Vikings to win. I do like Jimmy Graham. Austin Hooper last week I think caught 9 of 9 passes or 8 of 9 passes for 77 yards. So they are susceptible to tight ends. I think Jimmy Graham could go back-to-back games with a touchdown here.
All right, what do you think, John?
So I've got the line at 2.5. What did you say?
Green Bay at home 2.5.
2.5. So it's all home field advantage there. I don't think that's enough for me to trust it. So I'm gonna take my Minnesota to cover. I actually think Adam Thielen can have a pretty good game here. I think even with Kevin King back, I still think that's a plus matchup for Adam Thielen.
Okay. I think it's actually the most interesting matchup of the day because you want to see what the Vikings are actually going to do on offense. Is last week, obviously, 10 passing plays isn't what's going to happen, and you want to see how legitimate the Green Bay defense is. Moving into Kansas City at Oakland, Kansas City on the road, 10-point favorite. It's going to be a complete shootout. I think that Oakland is not quite the team we saw last week, so yeah, I'll definitely take the Chiefs. And for DFS, I love Travis Kelce. There's tons of really cheap options like Darren Waller and Mark Andrews and Delaney Walker and TJ Hawkinson who are perfectly fine. But if you're playing cash, Travis Kelce is still Travis Kelce. He had a couple touchdowns called back last week. So while everyone else is dinking and dunking over those, you can take the easy money with Travis Kelce. Just like, don't automatically go there. The other plays are fine, but Travis Kelce, don't forget about him.
Give me Kansas City and everyone in this game.
Everybody.
Everyone. It legitimately was tough to make a lineup this week without Raiders. Josh Jacobs is a good cheap option here. Darren Waller, Tyrell Williams. I think Tyrell Williams is in for a huge game. He showed last week that he can be the wide receiver 1 for the Oakland Raiders. And while Isaac Yiadom was the guy that they took advantage of, I think he's better than the secondary of the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think Tyrell Williams is in for another big game.
Okay. What do you think, Benny?
I will take the Chiefs to cover if it's at 7. If it's at 7.5, I think Raiders will probably end up covering. I think
have the Chiefs at 10, actually.
At 10. All right. So let's go with the Raiders to cover in this matchup. I know, Matt, we had a brief conversation. I need to get this out because this has been where I've placed my flag.
I allowed you to take this one
on Damian Williams. Damian Williams led everybody in the NFL last week in red zone looks. He outsnapped LaShawn McCoy 2.5 to 1. Also, when looking at the Chiefs' history last year with Tyreek Hill off the field, only 2 players saw their targets go up. One of them was Demarcus Robinson. The other was Damian Williams. So no Tyreek Hill, outstepping LaShawn McCoy, getting goal line looks, and leading the NFL in red zone opportunities and red zone looks. I don't understand why more people aren't on Damian Williams this week. He's going to catch a ton of passes. He's going to get more involved in the passing game. He's the goal line back against the Raiders secondary that's not particularly impressive. I have a ton of exposure to him in GPPs, and I think Damian Williams has a chance to break the slate.
I tried talking all my friends into it this morning. Damian Williams, they split carries. LaShawn McCoy looked better. He did look better on the ground. I mean, you can't really argue that, at least in a 1-game sample size for this season, but they got the same amount of work. Williams got more carries. Williams, even if they get that same amount, he's a lot more productive this week. Williams got all the work in the air, though. McCoy didn't actually get that much. So, yeah, I mean, just from a production standpoint, especially in salaried DFS, he's a steal. What do you think, John?
Yeah, definitely. And again, you're just starting all these guys. I not very many guys I'm staying away from. So based on that, just to go really deep, I think Demarcus Robinson has a chance to score here. Benny mentioned briefly, the uptick in snaps and targets. So yeah, I think Demarcus Robinson gets some work and gets in the end zone here. I
ironically like him just as much as Mecole in this particular game. In my heart,
I like him more.
Oh yeah,
and again, just kind of a better red zone target. Doesn't necessarily have to score from distance, which I think is what it's going to take for Hardman. So I think Robinson's got a better chance of scoring. And yeah, let's just take the Chiefs to cover.
All right, we got 4 games to go and 5 minutes to do them. And Saints at the Rams. The Rams in that really non-existent home field advantage is 2.5, but it is a home field advantage. The fact that they don't have to play in New Orleans, I guess, is a nice thing. So I will take the Saints here. Actually, on the road, even though they are not as good of a team on the road, I just think that they are better. I think this will be a monster game, 53.5. I think there'll be a ton of scoring. It's just that I just think that the Saints are a little better. That's all. I expect this to just be a fantastic game, but I expect the Saints to win. And my play of the game here is, I don't know, Robert Woods. He's the most dependable guy in that offense. I tend not to like to start people in DFS from that team just because there's so many targets. I never know how it's going to shake out. Just ask Brandon Cooks last week. So I'll take Robert Woods as Mr. Dependable.
I agree with you that the Saints win this game, cover and win. And I think they do it with Alvin Kamara. So pay up for him.
Okay. What do you think, Sam? Benny, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'll take the Rams. Back at home, Goff is always so good at home. Brandon Cooks is so good at home, and he's dominated in his last 2-3 games against the Saints in those revenge games. So I will say that the Rams hold on, and I'd say Cooks is probably my favorite play of everybody not named Alvin Kamara.
Okay.
Yeah, God, I'll take the Saints too. I think Kamara is just going to dominate this week. I think he's one of those that you should be paying up in DFS.
Okay. Peter Howard was wondering why we didn't mention Watkins as a cash play. We probably should have. I think he is kind of chalk. I mean, not in a bad way. He's the guy that they're going to throw to besides Kelsey. So I love him across the board. I have a ton of exposure to him. I don't think we have to really dive that deep into him. As far as like a 1 week sample size, everyone's on Watkins this week, right? Okay.
Hard not to be, yeah.
Okay. Chicago Bears at Denver. The pick 'em pretty much, which pretty much puts Denver at a slight disadvantage if you're reading into it. This is going to be a shit fest, everybody. 40.5 is the over under. I expect the Chicago offense to look a hair better. I expect the Denver defense to look a lot better. But there's some stats going around. You probably read Denver's like borderline unbeatably invincible at home during September. So why am I to argue with that? I'll go with Denver and start, nobody. This is going to be horrible.
Yeah,
I said I like David Montgomery earlier, but I mean, this is going to be bad.
I'm taking the under on the 40. I will take Denver. Yes, I am a Denver Broncos fan, but like Matt said, I believe they're like 7-0 in the last 4 years in their first 2 in September. No, 8-0 or something in September at home. And they're like 58-3 at home since like the merger or something like that at home.
It's impressive.
Yeah, so like they're unbeatable basically at home in September. Has a lot to do with the altitude. I'm not really touching anybody in this game. Allen Robinson's probably your best option here. And it really depends on if Bryce Callahan plays. But even then, I would still think that Allen Robinson's probably your best option on both sides of the ball.
Hey, the games have started. So for the sake of everything, we could skip by the players to play because it's literally not helping anybody anymore.
Well, whatever.
So who did you say you were? Benny, who'd you take here for the?
I saw a bunch of line movement in the Bears' direction, and I think that was probably the public freaking out after they lost to the Raiders. I'll be a homer and I'll say the Bears cover whatever the 1 point it is.
All right, John, who do you like in this game?
Yeah,
do I have to ask?
Yeah, you probably do because I'm taking the Bears. I think that there are more ways for the Bears to win. So to me, there are 3 possible outcomes here. Either the Broncos win in
you being a traitor, one of those outcomes.
No, it's because he is such a
into of the outcomes
Broncos this year. Like
they're not good. We just saw that they're not any good. They've lost to, and not only lost but got bullied by a not that good Oakland Raiders team. And now you get a defense coming in that's far more, it's the fastest, it's the biggest, most powerful in the entire league. I don't see how the Broncos move the ball on them. And I don't care about the institutional knowledge that Vic Fangio brings from Chicago to Denver. That does absolutely nothing for you when you actually have to get on the field and play.
Yeah,
These guys.
you don't need institutional knowledge to know that Mitch Trubisky can't play quarterback.
Oh, he's so terrible.
Well, there's that, and Vic Fangio definitely knows how to get into his head. But my question is, how does Denver score points? And the only way to do it for me is, I mean, a strip sack somewhere, a turnover deep in enemy territory. Like this offense, how is this offense going to move the ball, Stomp?
I don't know. I'm just not going to be the goddamn downer that you are.
But it's not my job to sit here and root for the Broncos.
John convinced me that the Bears are probably going to take this one.
They are not.
They're going to, and so and I am still going to throw out David Montgomery. I think that is the way that the Bears are able to move the ball. And since it's an afternoon game, yeah.
Safety on Trubisky. Broncos win 2-0.
Yeah. It's get ready for a baseball score for sure.
Yeah, that'd be bad. All right, moving on
to even a hockey score.
The Eagles at Falcons. I'm not going to even get into the players because again, games did lock here, but I like the Falcons for a bounce back, even though I think the Eagles are probably one of the more underrated offenses, one of the best offenses in the league. I think Atlanta will bounce back in a big way. Washington showed that you can expose the Philadelphia secondary. This is a pick 'em, by the way. So Atlanta at home. I'll go with Atlanta. What do you think, Benny?
I was on Atlanta all week because I think their offense will finally bounce back. But I saw a segment with Hank Goldberg on ESPN, and he was so convinced that Philadelphia is just going to destroy Atlanta. And the fact that they're underdogs and their defense, I think, is looking for an opportunity to step up. I will take Philadelphia to cover.
Okay. What do you think, Sam?
Sorry, what was the line again?
I'm
watching Red Zone. I think I got Philly here. Do
we think that Freeman gets shut down again by another good run defense?
Yes, I do, but I think he's got enough PPR upside that like there are some better. I mean, he's fine to start. I just don't. He's not going to have a good game this week either, I think.
All right, John, what do you think?
I think Eagles win in a shootout.
All right, I love shootouts. Cleveland Browns at Jets for the last one. I don't know why this is I'm looking at Pick'em. Is this right? That can't be right.
No, there's no way.
It started, I think, at Cleveland -1. Since I've last saw it at like Cleveland -6, -6.5.
Yeah,
I don't know when this was updated. I got this from Sporting News. When was this? 2 hours ago. No way. Whatever.
No. I mean, every week.
The Browns by 1 million points.
Yeah, if that's the actual line. I mean, I would go put my paycheck on that.
Yeah, I mean,
Browns by 1 million.
Yeah, 1 million points.
Especially with Darnold out, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, plus
Darnold in the entire defense.
Yeah, Mosley's out. Quentin's out. I mean, they're screwed. Nick Chubb season all day.
Jamal Williams just scored a touchdown, by the way.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
Did he?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I'm excited and I'm disappointed. I'm mostly excited though. Go Pack Go.
Matt Tilt at 12:07 Central Time.
I don't have a red zone on, but all right. Well, Jamal Williams, let's go. All right. On that is the way. That's the way. Apparently, the show's going to end with a Jamal Williams touchdown. That's how this day is going to go. Apparently,
just
so
like
whatever.
you planned it.
Sign me up for 7 more Jamal Williams touchdowns. I do like the Packers more than I like fantasy football. I know not everyone is like that, but Benny, thank you for joining us on the show again. John, thanks for coming on.
Anytime.
Hey, maybe next week we'll actually end on time. I mean, it can happen.
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We're new at this, guys. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to FFMercs Live, and we'll be back next week at 11:30 Eastern. See you, everybody.
Later. Saquon Barkley just ran for like the entire off